I'm writing this book, as most people know, about Jehovah's Witnesses, and I cover the reason that they banned beards, right? Now, they just unbanned beards, and the reason that they give for banning them in the first place in the unbanning video is because it represented a rebellious attitude, a political attitude in the 70s and the 60s. Except beards have been banned a lot longer than that. That's obviously not the reason. So, going in search of the answer here, I found that the answer was Joseph Rutherford did a hostile takeover of the religion, changed its name, took control of the Watchtower Society, fired board members he didn't like, the whole 9 yards. And people were wearing beards that looked like his predecessor's beard, Charles Taze Russell. And he didn't like that. He didn't want anybody to be reminded of his predecessor. Well, that's the real reason. Well, I was looking into it. There's a guy named William Schnell, I think, wrote a book called 30 Years a Watchtower Slave. It was written in 1971. This guy was in the room when this conversation happened, where Rutherford basically said, I'll get you a new rotary press if you take that thing off, basically telling one of his top people in Germany or something to get rid of their beard. And it was because he didn't want him to look like Russell. That's why he wanted it gone. That's when beards were banned, in 1925. Well, as it turns out, 3 years later, Jehovah's Witnesses put that exact account that was described in 30 Years a Watchtower Slave in their literature. They put it in their 1974 yearbook. So I'm looking through all this documentation. I have all the original PDFs and everything for all of this stuff. And earlier I got to wondering, is this still on the Jehovah's Witnesses website? I wonder if it is, because they've had this old, this old Watchtower online library system, this old database of their literature for like decades and decades, forever. So I searched up on their website this story from the 1974 yearbook, and guess what? I found it. It's still on their website. Seriously. So Schnell wrote about it in his critical book, 30 Years a Watchtower Slave, and sure enough, right on their website, it backs up his account, adds credibility to it. I don't know how it can be any more confirmed than that. More equipment was needed. For that reason, Brother Belzeriot asked Brother Rutherford for permission to buy a rotary press. Brother Rutherford saw the necessity and agreed, but on one condition. He had noticed that over the years, Brother Belzeriot had grown a beard very similar to the one that had been worn by Russell. His example soon caught on. There were others who also wanted to look like Russell. This could give rise to a tendency toward creature worship. He wanted them to get rid of it. So the real reason is actually because the hostile takeover had just taken place, and he didn't want any reminders of his predecessor. That's actually why that happened. So anyway, I was so surprised to find that it's still on there. It is still in their literature, like on their website today. That's just nuts. So if any of your Jehovah's Witness family members refuse to accept the fact that beards were banned out of vindictiveness, just take them straight to the Watchtower Online Library and it'll say it all for you. You don't have to say a word. Either way, no matter what interpretation you put on this, Rutherford banned beards because he didn't want people to be reminded of his predecessor. Bottom line.